My cousin falsely accused me of assaulting her at a family BBQ. My entire family abandoned me without hearing my side. But when she confessed the truth via text, she lost her job, boyfriend, and family. Now everyone's begging for forgiveness, but I'll never forgive them. I'm 29 years old. I work at a logistics company, and what happened like 8 months ago literally destroyed my entire family. I mean, it wasn't one of those normal fights you have at Christmas and then everyone forgives each other. It was something that changed everything forever. And the worst part, what makes me angry to this day, is that it all started with a lie. Such an absurd lie that I still can't believe anyone believed it. But that's life. I guess people believe what they want to believe, especially when it comes to these kinds of accusations. I should start from the beginning. When things were still normal, my family has always been one of those that gets together often. You know, birthdays, barbecues, holidays, all that stuff. I grew up in a pretty normal house with my parents and my brother, Hunter, who's 3 years younger than me. We were always close to the extended family, especially to my Aunt Catherine and her kids. My cousin Natalie is my age. We basically grew up. Together, we went to the same parties, played video games at my house. She'd lend me her school notes when I was absent, like we were really close. Or so I thought. The thing is, Natalie was always a bit dramatic. I'm not saying that to be a jerk, but she literally was like that since she was little. Everything had to be about her. All the stories she told at family gatherings were like exaggerated to the max, and if she felt someone else was getting attention, somehow she'd find a way to redirect everything toward her. But I never thought, and when I say never, I mean never, that she'd go as far as she did. I'd been dating Taylor for like 2 years when all this happened. Taylor is amazing. Honestly, she works as a nurse at the county hospital and she's one of those people who always sees the good in people, you know what I mean? My parents adored her. My brother Hunter always told me not to screw it up with her because she was the best thing that had happened to me, and he was right. We lived together in a small apartment near my work. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. And we were good, like really happy. I worked in the coordination department of a medium-sized logistics company. Good salary, good benefits, everything normal and stable. The day everything went to hell started like any other Saturday. My parents had organized a barbecue at their house. One of those typical summer gatherings where the whole family comes, you know, burgers, hot dogs, beers, cousins running around everywhere. Taylor and I arrived around 2 in the afternoon. We brought some bags of chips and a 6-pack of craft beer I'd bought at a new store near our apartment. Natalie was already there when we arrived, chatting with my Aunt Catherine and my mom in the kitchen. She greeted me normally, like a hug and a, "Hi, Jonathan, how are you?" Nothing weird, nothing that made me think something was wrong. The afternoon went super normal. Seriously. My dad was at the grill with my uncle. Hunter was, playing cornhole with some cousins in the yard. Taylor was helping my mom with the salads. I was mostly outside, drinking beers and chatting with the family. I greeted Natalie a couple more times during the afternoon. We exchanged some words about her new job at an administrative office, nothing major. There was no weird moment, no uncomfortable conversation, no sign that something was about to explode. Taylor and I left around 8 at night. Normal goodbyes, hugs, my mom telling us to drive carefully, the usual. We got to the apartment, watched Netflix for a while, and went to sleep. A completely normal Saturday, or so I thought. Sunday morning, I woke up to like 15 missed calls from different numbers. It was around 11 in the morning. I'd turned off the sound on my phone the night before because I was tired. When I checked, I saw I had messages from my mom, my dad, Hunter, my Aunt Catherine, even from cousins I barely talked to. They all said things like, "Call me urgent," or "We need to talk now." My heart dropped. I thought someone had died or something. I called my mom first. She answered on the first ring, and the first thing she said to me, without even letting me speak, was, "Jonathan, what did you do?" Like that, without question marks, like a direct accusation. I asked her what she was talking about, and she told me that Natalie had called that morning, crying hysterically, saying that I had assaulted her at yesterday's barbecue. I remember perfectly that I went silent, like processing the words because they didn't make sense. I told her mom, What are you talking about? I didn't touch Natalie. I wasn't even alone with her at any point." But my mom sounded different, distant, and she just told me that Natalie was very upset and that the family was very worried. I hung up and checked the family WhatsApp chat we all had. There it was, a long message from Natalie posted around 9 in the morning. It said something like, it was very hard for her to write this, but she needed to be brave and tell the truth. That I had assaulted her at the barbecue, that it had been something horrible and traumatic, and that she couldn't keep quiet about it anymore. The message was super emotional, with a bunch of details that sounded convincing but were completely false. It said it happened when she had gone to the bathroom in the house, and that I had followed her, that I had tried to force her, that she had managed to get out but was devastated. She worded it in such a detailed and dramatic way that anyone who read it without knowing the truth would believe it. I started shaking, literally. Taylor asked me what was wrong, and when I showed her the message, she was shocked. The first thing I did was write in the group saying that was completely false, that I had no idea what Natalie was talking about, that I had never done anything like that. But there were already like 30 messages from other family members, some telling Natalie they supported her, others asking what had happened, some in silence. Nobody. And when I say nobody, I mean absolutely nobody wrote anything defending me. The next few days were a total nightmare. My Aunt Catherine called me, yelling, telling me I was a monster. How dare I do that to her daughter? That she was going to make sure the whole family knew what kind of person I was. I tried to explain to her that it was a lie, that Natalie was lying, but she just cried and yelled louder. She hung up saying she never wanted to see me again. My dad called me that afternoon. I expected him to, I don't know, at least listen to me. But his tone was cold, distant. He asked me a bunch of questions like, where were you at such and such time? Are you sure nothing happened that you misinterpreted? Basically trying to find some way in which I was guilty of something. I swore to him that nothing had happened, that Natalie was lying, but I could hear in his voice that he didn't fully believe me. Or maybe he did believe me but was afraid to admit it, I don't know. He told me we needed to give the situation time, that things would calm down, but I knew that wasn't going to happen. Hunter was the one that hurt the most. My brother, the guy I grew up with, who I shared a room with for years, didn't return my calls for days. When we finally talked, he told me he didn't know what to think. That Natalie sounded very convincing, but that he also knew me, and found it hard to believe I would do something like that. I asked him to just trust me, that he knew I wasn't capable of doing what Natalie said, but he just responded that he needed time to process everything. He basically stayed neutral, and that felt almost worse than if he had told me directly that he hated me. My mom oscillated between believing me and doubting. Some calls she was understanding, saying she knew I was a good kid. But other times, she sounded accusatory, asking me things like, are you completely sure there wasn't a misunderstanding? Or maybe you drank too much and don't remember well? As if I were some drunk going around assaulting people without remembering. It infuriated me, but it also hurt because she was my mom, the person who's supposed to defend me without question. The only person who never, not for a second, doubted me was Taylor. From the first moment she told me she knew it was a lie, that she had been with me the whole time at the barbecue and that I had never been alone with Natalie. She tried to talk to my family, wrote in the group chat defending me, but they basically ignored her. My Aunt Catherine even responded to her with something super passive-aggressive, like it's natural that you'd defend your boyfriend, but the truth always comes out. I wanted to throw my phone against the wall every time I read those things. I decided to cut contact with everyone. I blocked the family chat, blocked my Aunt Catherine, stopped answering calls from my parents and Hunter. I felt betrayed in a way I can't even describe. This was my family, the people who were supposed to know me better than anyone. And they were all willing to believe Natalie without even asking for my complete version of the facts, without even considering that maybe, just maybe, she was lying. I realized that for them, it was easier to believe the dramatic victim than to defend the accused, even if the accused was their own son, their own brother. The next few months were weird. I focused on my work, on Taylor, on rebuilding my life without my family. I stopped going to any family events, obviously, stopped responding to messages from cousins trying to find out what had happened, basically isolated myself from that whole world. Taylor convinced me to go to the gym to release the anger and frustration, and honestly, it did help. I started going like 5 times a week, got in better physical shape than I'd been in years, and it gave me something to focus on that wasn't the emotional chaos. I also reconnected with some friends from college I'd stopped seeing regularly. We'd go out on weekends, play pool, watch soccer games at bars. Little by little, I started to feel like I could have a normal life without my family. Although there was always like a sadness in the background, you know what I mean? Like a part of me that knew this shouldn't be this way, that your family shouldn't abandon you so easily. At work, I did well during that time. They promoted me to night shift supervisor with a decent salary increase. My boss asked me a couple of times if everything was okay, because according to him, I looked different, more serious. But I told him it was just personal stuff, and he didn't insist. Taylor and I became closer. Ironically, she was there every night when I got home from work, listening to me vent, reminding me that I wasn't alone, that what Natalie had done was unforgivable, but that eventually the truth would come out. I wanted to believe her, but honestly, I'd lost faith in that. It was like 5 months of this weird state, like living a parallel life without my family, before things started to change. One Tuesday night, I was at home watching TV when I got a Facebook notification. It was a message from Natalie. My heart jumped, not with excitement, but like panic mixed with anger. I hadn't talked to her since the day of the barbecue. When it started saying, "Hi, Jonathan. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, and I completely understand." Then it continued with a bunch of confusing justifications and explanations about how she had been going through a very difficult time in her life back then, that she was dealing with undiagnosed mental health issues, that she had acted impulsively. And at the end, almost at the end of the message, was the part that made me feel a mix of relief and absolute fury. She admitted she had lied. It said, "I know what I did was wrong, and that I falsely accused you of something horrible. You don't have to forgive me, and I don't expect you to, but I needed to tell you the truth." I stared at the screen for I don't know how long. Taylor was on the night shift at the hospital, so I was alone in the apartment. I read the message like 10 times to make sure I was understanding correctly. Natalie was admitting she had lied. After 5 months of my life being destroyed, of losing my family, of being treated like a monster, she casually sent me a Facebook message saying, "Oops, I lied. My bad." I didn't respond to her. I took screenshots of the message and sent them to Taylor. She called me immediately, even while at work, and told me this changed everything, that I had to share this with my family. But I didn't want to, honestly. I was so angry, so hurt, that part of me wanted everyone to keep thinking I was guilty, just so I could keep them out of my life. But Taylor convinced me that at least I should send it to my parents and Hunter, that they deserved to know the truth. I sent the screenshot to my mom. First, without any additional message, just the screenshot of Natalie's message. She responded like 20 minutes later, first with an "oh my God," and then called me crying. She apologized like 1,000 times, saying she had been a terrible mother, that she should never have doubted me, that she was devastated for not defending me. I told her it was okay, but honestly it wasn't. I still felt all the resentment and betrayal. She wanted me to come to the house to talk in person, but I told her I needed time. Hunter called me that same night. He apologized in a more direct way, without as much drama as my mom. He told me he had been a coward for not choosing a side, that he should have supported me from the beginning, that he was very sorry. I thanked him, but also made it clear that I wasn't going to forget how everyone had abandoned me so easily. He understood. Or at least said he did. My dad was the last to call, like 2 days later. He's always been more emotionally closed off, like old school type, so I didn't expect much, but he sounded genuinely sorry. He told me he had made a terrible mistake by doubting me, that as a father he should have defended me no matter what, that he couldn't imagine what I'd been through. I told him I forgave him, but that things couldn't go back to how they were before, at least not soon. Through my cousin Preston, who was one of the few who stayed in touch with me during all this time, although very discreetly, I found out what was happening with Natalie. Turns out her life was completely falling apart. She had lost her job at the administrative office because, according to Preston, she had had several episodes of lying about things at work too, like reporting she was sick when she wasn't, saying she had completed projects she hadn't even started. Her boss eventually got fed up and fired her. My Aunt Catherine, after finding out the truth about the false accusation, basically kicked her out of the house. Preston told me there was a horrible fight where my aunt yelled at Natalie that she had embarrassed her in front of the whole family, that she had destroyed the relationship with her nephew over an absurd lie, that she didn't want her in her house. Natalie had to go live with a friend. But according to Preston, that situation didn't last long either, because Natalie started creating drama there too. And to top it off, the boyfriend she had at the time, a guy named Marcus who had been with her for like 2 years, also left her. Preston told me Marcus had found out about the whole false accusation situation and had started questioning other things Natalie had told him during their relationship, and he realized she had a pattern of lying and manipulating situations to get attention or sympathy, so he broke up with her. I'm not going to lie, when Preston told me all this, I felt a kind of dark satisfaction. It's not that I wanted Natalie to suffer exactly, but I couldn't feel sorry for her after what she had done to me. She chose to lie, chose to destroy my reputation and my family relationships, and now she was facing the consequences of her actions. It seemed fair to me, honestly. The family gradually started distancing themselves from Natalie too. My Aunt Catherine stopped inviting her to family events. Other cousins started ignoring her calls. She basically became the family pariah, the person nobody wanted to know anything about. Preston told me Natalie had tried calling him and other cousins crying, saying everyone had abandoned her, but nobody wanted to deal with her drama after everything that had happened. I've started rebuilding some relationships with my family, but it's slow and complicated. I see my mom like once a month for coffee. I talk to Hunter more often on the phone. With my dad, it's harder. I still feel a lot of resentment toward him because I expected more from him as my father. But we're trying. What I'm not going to do is forgive Natalie. A lot of people in the family, especially the older aunts, who are always trying to keep the peace, have told me I should consider forgiving her, that she was going through problems, that family is important. But I tell them no, that what she did is unforgivable. She didn't just falsely accuse me of something horrible. She maintained the lie for months while watching my life fall apart. That's not something you forgive with a simple, "I'm sorry." Preston told me a few weeks ago that Natalie is going to therapy now, that supposedly she's working on her problems with compulsive lying and attention-seeking. I don't care, honestly. I hope it helps her and that she doesn't destroy someone else's life again. But it's not my problem. Last week I went to dinner at my parents' house for the first time since everything happened. It was weird. Like everyone trying to act normal, but with this underlying tension of everything that had happened. Hunter was there with his new girlfriend. My mom had cooked my favorite food as a kind of peace gesture. It was okay, I guess. It wasn't like before. Probably never will be. But it's something. Taylor continues to be my rock in all this. She told me the other day she's proud of how I've handled everything, that not many people could go through what I went through and come out the other side. I'm not sure I agree with that. I feel like I'm barely surviving sometimes. But I appreciate that she thinks so. We're talking about moving to a bigger apartment, maybe adopting a dog. Normal things that normal people do when they want to build a life together. And that's more or less where I am now. My family is slowly coming back into my life, but with very clear boundaries. Natalie is facing the consequences of her actions, and I'm trying to move forward, to build something new with the pieces that were left after everything exploded. It's not perfect. It's not even especially good some days, but it's my reality now, and I'm learning to live with it.